I've basically been an entrepreneur since the time I was born. I remember being 6 years old, my father taking me to the store, saying I could choose any bike I wanted. I picked one. We ended up at the till, and he said he'd buy half, and I had to buy the other half. I'm 6. The only way that you can actually make money as a 6-year-old is by creating your own business and doing your own thing. So, did the typical lemonade stand, yard work service. By the time I was in elementary school, I was running an internet company. We ended up, I probably had about 5 or 6 people and actively grew out. Through high school, I moved into the promotional marketing entertainment world, built and sold a business in Western Canada. Moved out to Toronto in search of the dream, and worked at Siegel as part of the IPG network and was responsible for getting the advertising sales for Facebook up and running in Canada. Met a lot of people, learned a lot, did that for about 2 years, and then started SynCaps. The reason that Facebook was defined as why Toronto was defined as the Facebook capital of the world was simple. When Facebook was first developed, users who signed up were signed up on college networks, so Harvard, NYU, etc. So if you lived in New York and you were on Facebook, you would have signed up on one of your college networks. When you signed up in Canada, those college networks weren't prevalent. You signed up and associated yourself with Toronto. So when you looked at the numbers of Toronto versus New York, for example, Toronto was higher. The reason Toronto was higher was because there were a lot of little sub-networks of all of the colleges in New York that, when all added together, were infinitely higher. So that was actually an issue that was related towards the filtration of data, and it was a data point that media really stuck itself to. There are different and high penetration rates. Canada definitely has a super high penetration rate of social media. The U.S. is catching up. All kinds of facts: broadband penetration, mobile penetration. There are so many factors that come into it, and I think just a society that wants to be deeply connected. Social media is equally as hot. If you're at a conference in the UK or London or Asia, it feels equally as hot there as it does anywhere. From the trends that I've seen from a marketing perspective, Canada's been pretty much at the beginning of the curve. That was because if you look at a platform like Facebook, Canada did get mass penetration across the widest audience here faster than the US. And the reason, again, for that, if you look from my perspective, was Facebook in the US was first and foremost seen as a college site. It's not anymore. But in Canada, it was never seen as a college site, so it spread much faster. They had to change behavior in the US, get people thinking it wasn't a college site, and then it exploded out. So really the revolution that was driven by Facebook here hit first because we were very close to the US and the spread happened. We didn't have that college ceiling over top of us, and it just spread out. I remember my 86-year-old grandmother at one point was on Facebook and talking to me. It was remotely, very strange. If we were in the US, that wouldn't happen. And it was just the personas of those types of sites. I think it's been a lot of different factors that have really impacted why Canada has been such a hotbed for social media. I think it depends on the size of business. Small businesses trying to figure out what they can do with a limited budget and how they're going to connect with their customers and sell more products. Medium business is facing a lot of the same problems of large business in terms of, we've got people speaking on behalf of our brand or company. How are we going to manage this? What's our governance going to look like? What does our workflow look like? Okay, now we're managing to do this. How do we know if we're successful? How are we going to measure it? How does this change our business? How does this change our support structure? How does this change our sales structure? The reality is that I think social media is transforming businesses on more than just marketing. It goes into IT, it goes into support, it goes into product, it goes into marketing, it goes in across the whole business. So organizations are really struggling to understand how that fits and ultimately what type of organizational change they're going to need to implement to be able to allow them to be successful in the new world. And it's not just the social media new world, it's just society's changing and the organizational structures of tomorrow are evolving, and that's what the change is going to have to happen for them to be competitive. From the trends that we see, fragmentation is going to continue to increase. There'll be more platforms, more systems, more isolated and diverse technologies. We'll then typically go through a period of consolidation where these technologies, platforms, systems will all start consolidating in an attempt to build larger platforms that serve more and more people. And if you look at some of the things that Facebook or others are doing, they're all working to connect and become that standardized platform that's going to feed social media. The battle that brews between Google and Facebook will continue. So far, the indicators are, from what we're seeing, Facebook's making far more inroads than anybody else. But the battle is still raging, and what it will be in 5 years, who knows? No one expected Twitter 2 years ago, and we're all talking about it, and everyone's using it. Who knows whether it will come or go, or Facebook or MySpace, or hey, maybe GeoCities will come back. I don't think we really know. It's really going to be dictated based on user demand and what users really want to do online. Syncaps is a full-service social technology company. Our business is broken down into two key areas: professional services and our SaaS-based solutions, or software as a service. Our professional services, we help large organizations understand and implement social technologies. How do we manage all these diverse platforms like a Bazaar Voice and a Jive and a Facebook and an Open Social? How do we manage all that? And that's where we come in. We make it seamless to manage those types of problems on a global level. So that's a big part of our PS business. The other part is measurements, helping organizations understand how they're going to use social media to measure their success. So those are the major areas within professional services. Within our software as a service, as I mentioned before, we've rolled out Social Talk, which is our proprietary social media management platform, as well as Social Sync, which helps connect multiple communities together. And we have an aggressive roadmap of rollouts on both sides of our business, and both are continuing to grow and are deeply interconnected as well in terms of being able to offer clients holistic solutions, which is why we refer to ourselves as a full-service social technology partner.